Hey, and welcome to today's video. I'm very excited about having my guest Monica with me today. And before I introduce her, or she gets to introduce herself, I just want to let you know that I am really happy that you're here, first of all, and I hope you're subscribed, like the video. Only about, I think, 45% of people watching the video are subscribed, so that would really help a lot with sharing these videos and all of this information, the stories, to other people as well who can get help from the videos. So if you like it, please do subscribe, please do like the videos. So let's dive in. Let's say welcome to Monica Matei. I again hope I pronounced that correctly. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to be talking about a event actually that you started that you posted on LinkedIn, and it kind of caught my eye because, and to be honest, I don't remember what the post said, but I was just like, it sounded so interesting. And the event is called The Foreigner's Journey. And I think even that, like you wouldn't have had to like post anything else than that. I was like, oh, that is something I would love to talk about, because I talk about a lot of international expats, the journey that people are having here. So I would love to know a little bit more about your background. What got you to, what is the event, first of all, because it's not happened yet as we record this. So there will be opportunities to actually join the event. So tell us, who are you? What's the event? And then we'll go from there.
Okay. Where should I start? So the foreigner's journey started a few months ago when I met my collaborator Adele, and we got together to create a different kind of event. I design experiences, and Adele is into performance and theater studies. So I think we had a lot of overlap there, and we realized that we're both foreigners. So we were looking for some deep topic that we could work around, something that had a lot of meaning, especially to us. Because I think if you don't find meaning into what you do, you're not going to do it well. So this is why we chose the topic. And I think we have a rich background with being foreigners, both of us, and we kind of see a lot of kind of milestones on the journey of being a foreigner, like how all those phases, like you go through those phases and evolve. And I could really see differences between people who just moved to the country or people who have been here for a long time. So I wanted to create a guided journey that felt more like something in between theater and a workshop. We could actually guide foreigners through some sort of journey and help them discover themselves and learn things about themselves and about each other, hear stories, and also do like work with symbolism and metaphors. And also, whenever I hear events for expats, I cringe a little, honestly, because I think they fall into so many patterns, or like, okay, just share about your culture and all that, like share a dish from your country or speak in your language so we hear it. So I don't really like those kind of events, so I wanted to go like completely the other way.
That sounds really interesting, but I'm trying to figure what makes this event different? Why is it that someone should kind of join? Because I'm thinking when I do once a month, I do a network where I'm focused on networking with and trying to attract both um, a mix of internationals and Danes to create this network and to get people to share their stories and create connections, right? What is kind of the intent here? What is it that people will get from joining one of your networks? Because I like the intent that it's something different. It's a different way of seeing the journey, I would probably call it. Yeah.
Mhm. So the transformation that we're aiming for with this event is basically taking foreigners from a place of non-belonging and low self-confidence and really questioning themselves to seeing them like seeing themselves as like having superpowers, right? So I think it is what we try to target is the person that feels like they're living in between worlds, so that they don't belong to their origin culture anymore because they have moved abroad, they've grown, they've evolved, but they don't fit in Denmark necessarily, and maybe they will never fit here or feel like a local here. So it's a really uncomfortable position to be in between. And I think myself included, I've been really feeling down and really insecure of this position. So it's also part of my evolution here, tying into the event's objective. So really trying to plant a seed into people's minds, like, okay, there's a different way to live the foreigner's life, right?
I really love this because one of the things I see a lot when working with internationals is exactly that, that if people come here, and especially if they're looking for jobs, and it's like loss of identity, loss of the culture from back home, and they don't really feel like they fit in, it's kind of this downward spiral of um yeah, losing self-confidence as well, and then even less wanting to reach out to new people and other people because they feel like they're not worth it, and it becomes this really negative thing, which is such a shame because there's so many amazing internationals that end up in this mindset where it's like they have a lot of people come, and this is just for the my target audience, of course, but come here with master's degrees, PhDs, like they're highly educated, even it, and it doesn't even matter with the education actually, but coming here and being amazing people, right? And just because there's no one to kind of catch them in that spiraling down, it just becomes worse and worse. So I love that you're doing this. Um, I'm just before we started recording, you told me this was the second event that you're doing. Um, how did the first one go? Like, was it the same concept, or have you changed it because you like what's been the journey of the journey?
Great question. The first one was back in May this year. So right before summer, next one is gonna be right after summer. And the first one, it went great. Like we had many really good reviews of that, and people were really surprised. When I continue talking about the event later, I can describe a little bit what we do there, but we it's not a typical event. There's no awkwardness. We do role playing with surprise people. There are so many elements that we try to weave to really make something memorable, and that worked really well. And I really felt like for me it was like inviting people to play, to like temporary alternative world, right? That's what we're creating here, a space where they could rehearse a different way of being. And it was a success. I do know that there were moments that I should tweak on, because I think we were missing some opportunities for like a moment to be more memorable, or to make it more impactful, or to create some more collective feeling. I know, like when you first do something, when you first run an event like that, there are things that you overlook. So it has been also a great learning experience for me to try it on live with real participants. And now this is the second iteration where I have a list of things I want to edit and I want to really improve. So I'm really excited about this second one, because I think it's going to be much better.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like, amazing. There's always, hopefully, always room for improvement, right? Because nothing is perfect. So I think it's amazing that you're just seeing here, like, oh, there's something here we can actually do better for next time. That's amazing. I'm curious about, because this is the foreigner's journey, right? So what about your own journey? Because I'm guessing that you were just mentioning it shortly yourself that it was kind of also what sparked you to do this because of your own journey. So do you want to share a bit about that? Because I think that's interesting to kind of see also that how do I okay, so example for myself, my journey into what I'm doing came from me being in a struggle of not being able to find a job back in the day. So that led me into starting a podcast about job search, all of this, which have led me like that. Starting that podcast and being in those struggles has led me directly to where I am today. Maybe not directly, but it's a reason I'm here, right? So that background story to be the inspiration of what have you gone through that made you do this and maybe be an inspiration for other people watching this video.
Definitely, and I can share something about my background story. I became a foreigner already at 14 years old. So that's where my whole family moved abroad, and there were all these changes that were really a lot for a teenager to take, especially when you basically lose all your social fabric and you have to fit into something new and mold yourself. So I have a history of having to overdo it to really leave my old identity behind and really trying to fit in into the new. And I think I'm only now fully recovering from it, like really finding myself again. And well, after that move as a teenager, then after a while, after completing my studies, I moved. Oh, by the way, this is my cat. She is often coming um, jump on my desk whenever I'm saying the most important things.
Of
So you will
course.
see her. You will see her again. Uh,
That's how it works. What's his name?
she is called Leah,
Leah. Oh,
and she's a
nice.
very affectionate cat and really likes the camera.
Amazing.
This is what it is. Anyways, I was saying something really important, right? So that move as a teenager was not my choice, but then I decided to move abroad again to a place that I could choose, a place of my choosing, kind of to put the things right somehow. And I think I've been trying to do all these years, this past decade, was get back in touch with myself after that. And I noticed myself as a foreigner, I felt like my hands were tied, like all those like inner talk of, well, who are you to change things? Who are you to do something here when you're a foreigner? What do you know about what this place needs? Or, am I even allowed to have some sort of big initiative here, given my position? So I had all this self-talk going on for many years, and I felt like I had a lot of things I wanted to express and to create, but there was a lot of fear and a lot of insecurity holding me back. And and I think definitely with this work, this is what I'm trying to undo, and this is what I'm trying to share with other foreigners, because I think I'm not the only one who feels this way, that we are like caught in between. We will never be a local anywhere, most likely, and that can be really painful. And I felt that pain and that feeling of non-belonging. But there are really different ways to look at it and use it to your advantage. Not
Oh,
sure
that's
if I
interesting.
derailed from your question or not, but feel free to ask
No,
follow-ups.
I think especially the last thing here was interesting about like oh God, now I forgot what word you used. Um, but the whole thing about feeling like you belong, or maybe even more so that you never belong. I think that you said something interesting about that now it was your choice, like as a teenager, which by the way, I would think is one of the most crucial times to get moved because it's such a personality developing phase, right? So that I'm thinking that is I was gonna say, let's say interesting with lack of a better word, right? To move teenagers around. But I think the whole thing about it being a choice is interesting. And then also the whole thing about like do we ever really fit in? I just watched a video earlier today with um oh, I don't remember what their names are. Two guys living in Denmark, they're American, and they have their YouTube canal is called Rogue Trotter, I think, something along those lines. And they're talking about reverse culture shock as well. So the whole
Yeah,
thing
that's
about
a real thing.
exactly. So when you don't when you get back home, it's like you don't fit in either because you're not there. And I remember myself from just being away for a semester when I was studying, getting back home was really weird because in my mind everything was like standing still back home, right? I didn't get all of that. But then coming back is like, oh, that wasn't what happened. So how do you help people with this change? Or maybe it's more, the question is more, now I'm just rambling. Maybe the question should be more about how do you deal with this in the event, like this whole thing about belonging and feeling like it's okay to be who you are, and belonging is maybe more of an inside feeling than it's an outside feeling, in my opinion.
Hmm. Definitely. I actually want to start by mentioning a couple of things that you referred to before, right before this question. The question of moving abroad a bit too soon and how that affects the identity. And it has a term that I recently learned, and it's called a third culture kid. Maybe you know about it, but it's like it comes with its challenges and opportunities that you have a home culture, you have a new culture, or maybe only your parents' culture and the culture you're living in. You don't belong to any of them fully, but you make your third combination of those. And that comes with something called cultural homelessness. So you have myself, like in general, you have a difficult time deciding where home is. You maybe are not able to answer that question. And I include myself there. Like I do
Mm.
not know where home is, and I've struggled with that a lot. Then there is another thing, because you also mentioned going back home and getting the reverse culture shock. I have experienced being called a foreigner by my own family once I lived abroad enough and I went back for a visit. And then, it's not the greatest thing to hear from your people. It's also something that really hurts. And I think I'm also not the only one who is getting some sort of comment like that um, as well. And I think this, like, well, in general, the event is not for the what I'm describing a third culture, because that's my case. But I think um, it is mostly for people who have lived a considerate amount of years in Denmark, not
Okay, so
necessarily.
not newcomers.
It is not newcomers actually, and that's um, because the event is called the Foreigner's Journey, and if you just started your journey, I think it's a bit too soon to talk about all the other phases and what comes after. I think you're a bit too fresh,
It
and
might be too overwhelming to get all of that if you're so new.
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely, and I think you can't relate to those other things yet. So I don't
Mm.
think there's that emotional connection that you can make. But if you've been through this journey for a number of years, at least a year, and you found the obstacles and you also found your allies and the great things of the country, then I think you're at the more mature stage in the journey that you can really relate to what we have prepared for you. And now you really have to repeat the question because I forgot it.
I have no idea. I
Oh,
think I
yeah.
asked
Oh, I remember.
about the event. So what's in the event that can help people in that? Like, I'm thinking my question was about the feeling of home as well. That being like, how can the event help with that maybe? Or what is your take on it in terms of the event?
Yes, so feeling of home and belonging. I think the initial question you asked was also about belonging. And I think it's a difficult one because I think what we are trying to do is help people come to peace with the non-belonging, with the discomfort of living in between, of being like a cultural hybrid and not having to fix that. I think I became very fixated on belonging. It's one of the basic needs, but I think belonging can have many forms. And I think belonging in yourself, it's also a thing, like being
Mm.
comfortable with your weird combination of cultures and of ways of seeing things is way more important than really trying to fit into a culture. And I would think that sometimes it is impossible without losing yourself. So really, like, if you focus on belonging at any cost, I think you would have to go a bit too far with cutting sides of yourself and molding yourself too much and losing track of who you are. So living a false life, a false identity. And I think that is not true belonging either. And I also think that for belonging, you're competing with people who have been born and raised here. And you can't go back in time and raise yourself here. So I actually think belonging is impossible.
Mm. That's interesting. That's really interesting, actually. I I have this word that keeps popping up, which is, well, it's two words actually, but world citizen. That it's more about belonging in the world, for to keep using that word, but then it is to belong in a specific culture, and that with, like you're mentioning, third culture kids. I recently did an interview with Elisa, which is already up, about families moving and stuff like that. And that was really interesting, I think, as well. And I think the thing about maybe looking at it as, instead of countries and stuff like that and the boundaries, that it's that we are world citizens. And I don't know if it makes a difference. It's just what kind of came up for me.
Hmm. Yeah, I am not really using that concept, that term. I think that it has beauty to it, definitely. But yeah, I think there is some way that you can create belonging through that term also for yourself. Of okay, you have to just find. I think it's more like you have to find the people who have gone through a similar journey that you have. I kind of think that global citizen is a bit too large of a group
Mm,
to really relate to and to feel at home with. I think more like this community that would participate in the event. Like my intention there is like to try to help people see that they are not the only ones feeling this with this non-belonging, this in-betweenness, this cultural homelessness maybe.
mm.
So I think it's about finding your group. And I don't know, somehow think a smaller group is better than, just like the whole world somehow.
Yeah,
But I think also it can be really helpful as well.
yeah. Okay, so tell us a bit about, so if we sign up for your event, and I'm thinking it's in Copenhagen. I don't know
Yes,
actually.
definitely.
Okay.
It's in Istanbul here at this cultural mansion called Villa Cultura.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
what could I expect if, let's say, I'm probably not as a Dane the target audience, but let's say I signed up for it. What would I expect? What is it I would get from it?
Well, the event is 3 hours of different games and exercises and role plays. And what we do when you arrive, it is without saying too much, without spoiling the surprises. It is a plane journey, right? Like we will be there with captain hats welcoming you. You will get the foreigner's passport, which will be something that you will use throughout your journey. And then we will be starting the journey and slowly moving through different rooms of the villa. And in each room, we will have a topic a phase of the journey, a very distinct phase in every room. And also the rooms are also very different to each other. I can also tell you there is a light part of the journey, the more positive one, the more that is about growth, about evolution. And that is on the upper floor where we have natural light coming in. And when at one point we will switch and we will go through the dark side of the journey, inevitably there's a dark side, and that's where we will go to the basement and play a bit with a darker environment, actually. And I find that the most interesting phase of the event is actually the dark side, the more difficult phase of the journey. It's also the highest point in the event and what people remember most, so what stays with them. We have different rooms to play with, and we also have a really beautiful orangery. So this indoors garden with trees, palm trees, and a lot of glass, which I find really charming.
That sounds amazing. By the way, sorry for the dog barking.
Oh, I didn't even notice. Okay.
Okay.
We have all our pets coming in to join us.
Exactly. Um, no, but that sounds really interesting, and I love that you're like the dark part of the journey is part of it, because that's also where we change, right? When we feel something, and when we're maybe, and this is my word for it, but when we're sometimes pushed a bit on those experiences and those feelings, that is what will help us make a change, right? And help us evolve into what is the next thing. So that sounds amazing to go through a journey like that where you have focus on both, because the dark things is also what makes the light things be lighter. Yeah.
Definitely. And I
Okay.
think it's also what's adding the depth to it. It's not like, oh, everything is rosy, it's just entertaining, we're just having fun, because that is not true for foreigners in general. We're having fun, yes, it's a lot to discover and learn, but it's also a lot of
Hard work.
the pain of being a misfit. All those
Mm.
things are going in there, missing your family, losing touch with your native culture, all those things that are lingering there. So we are addressing them. And I also need to share that we are doing it really carefully, right? Like you can't put people on the spot and ask them to talk about all these difficult things. And I think we are trying to do it in a very poetic, in a very metaphorical way, very indirect way. And it's always, if you feel like sharing, if you feel okay with it, and really creating the space to allow for that. Also, warming people up to be open to sharing and to listening is also another thing. I think that's important because I know it can be really scary when you hear it from the outside, like, okay, we're going to go through the dark side of the journey. It is really like we are really careful and really thoughtful, me and Adele, and also for taking care of not foreigners, oh my God, taking care of the introverts in the room. Actually, that's super important as well. So we try to make people comfortable, to be aware of people's needs. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to create this.
Is it only for females, or is there a gender thing
No, no, there is no gender thing.
open for everyone?
And it is called the foreigner's journey. So it is for foreigners who have been in Denmark for a while and could connect with the message we're sending. I would really like to bring the Danes into the picture as well at a later event to see like, okay, we need the dialogue. I think this is where transformation could really happen. But for now, we really had to focus on one specific group to make
Mm.
this interesting, right? That this
Yeah.
is why it's called the foreigner's journey, and also because of me and my collaborator being foreigners and relating to that.
I think it sounds absolutely amazing. And this event coming up now, and there might be some in the future as well, of course, but this event coming up now is going to be on September 8th, 2024. Um, how many people do you have room for an event like this?
We will be a maximum of 25 people. It is
Okay.
quite small. It's quite, yeah, intimate.
Mm. Okay. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna share a link to get in touch with you in the comments. To if you have a link for tickets, we'll share that as well. Um, is there anything where like something you want to leave people with here, like internationals thinking about moving to Denmark or who already am here and struggling maybe, or just people who are looking for some more information about being an international in Denmark?
Hmm. It is a difficult question. I would say you don't have to do it alone, and you don't have to hide your creativity, or, like, not be so afraid of expressing yourself.
Mm.
And I think that is a process, and you can ask for help in that process.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that is amazing, and I really think that that is essential to create those networks around you of often people like you were mentioning earlier who are in the same kind of situation or have the same experiences, so you can relate. Actually, I think that is really, really amazing. So, Monica, thank you so much for coming on here and letting me help you share the information both about your journey, but also about this event, which again, not an international, so I'm not going to be joining, but I really think it sounds like something that would be really interesting to join and something I would really like let people know that that could be an interesting thing to join. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you as well, Diana. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure to be here sharing about this, which I like, the kind of work I love. So thank you for the opportunity.
You're most welcome. And for you watching this, I do want to say before I totally end this video that if you are looking for jobs in Denmark, whether you're in Denmark yet or you have a ride to Denmark, but you're looking for jobs, I have released a new Elevate program where you get courses, coaching with me, tests on about yourself. Reach out if you want to hear more about that. And then other than that, just have an amazing, amazing day. Bye.